Morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy weekend. I just had like a panic mode there, so you'll have to excuse me. I'm a little kerfluffled. I don't know, like this. For anyone that uses Facebook Live or anything like that, you know that the tech stuff can be very challenging sometimes. And I just like everything shut down. It wouldn't start my live video. I was like, ah! I was starting to get some anxiety. You see what I did there? I made a segue, or I did a segue. Anyways, we are here. It is Friday. I know it's earlier than normal, but that is because I have an exciting day planned. My smallest and youngest of baby sisters has a big birthday celebration today, so I will be going to see her to celebrate with her. And now that we have a little freedom starting today, it's a really great time. And speaking of freedom, who's going to 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗣𝗦? I wish I was going to 𝗧𝗧𝗠𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗣𝗦, but for anyone that looks at TikTok, it is filled with people getting ready to line up at 𝗧𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗏 today. So I'm sure that place is going to have a line a mile long. Anyways, that is not what we're here for. We're here to talk about anxiety. If you are joining live, say hi in the comments, and I will say hi back. So long as they show up today, I don't know. It's Mercury in retrograde, so I'm having technology issues. This is just what it is. So let us get started. I'm in a mood today, friends. So if I'm high energy and too high energy for you yet, or today, I'm sorry in advance, but let's go. Also, I'm wearing a Hamburglar top today, or a dress. It's so cute. Hi, Heather. Hi, Shannon. I am not surprised either of you are here. You're always here, and I truly appreciate the support as always. So let's chat about anxiety. First of all, welcome, welcome, welcome. I love Fridays. I love going live. And I love interacting with all of you. So as normal, if you have questions about anxiety, if you have questions about anything I'm talking about, drop it in the comments. If I don't see it for whatever reason, because you know me and the technology and blah, 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 leave it and I will answer it right afterwards. Let me move this down. This week, as per usual, I took inspiration from our questions and our answers to them to join the group. A lot of people said that when it comes to making change, the number one thing that continues to hold them back is anxiety. And I thought, this simply isn't right. I want each and every one of us to be able to seek out that transformation we want so badly. And if anxiety is holding us back, I want us to pick it apart so that we can start to understand what's happening, so that we can have an awareness around it and start making those changes slowly but surely. So, and just to kind of start off, I do have a caveat. I am a licensed therapist. I am not a doctor. So if you are experiencing anxiety, if it is chronic, please, please, please seek the support of a medical practitioner or your general practitioner, a medical professional. I just want to throw that out there because, you know, while some anxiety is absolutely normal, we do experience it. You know, if it's our first day of school, first day on the job, if we're giving a speech, before we go live and all our tech goes bananas, you know, we have experiences of anxiety and some of it is absolutely normal. But if you are someone that is finding it is chronic and you can't seem to get over the anxiety, it's with you all the time, definitely seek out the support of a medical practitioner. So that is my caveat. I put it out there, and now we can move along. As always, also, if there are topics that you want to see, if there's stuff you're interested in, please let me know. I actually had a little bit of an idea next week to cover the topic of highly sensitive people. So if that is of interest, let me know. I also want to do a series on chakras. So if that is of interest, that could take us like 7 or 8 weeks alone just there, and how chakras and therapy relate and intertwine. So those are some ideas I have. If you like those ideas, tell me in the comments. If you have ideas of your own, let me know. But today we're talking about anxiety, and you are probably here if you feel like anxiety has prevented you from having the things that you want in your life, whether it be engaging in activities or going out and seeing certain people or being with your friends. If anxiety has been kind of ruling whether or not you engage in those activities, this is going to be a really good one for you to sit down and check out. And if you find you're in avoidance mode, like if someone says, hey, Denise, let's, you know, it's open again. The world is open. Let's go to 𝗧𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗏 together. If you're feeling like, I don't know, there's going to be a lot of people there. I'm a little bit concerned. What if, and this and that. If you're avoiding things that you would normally love, let's have a chat about it. Let's pick it apart. Let's understand what's going on. If the thought of making a change in your life is anxiety inducing, Meaning, if I say, hey, we're going to change your life. We're going to change your life. We're going to work on self-doubt. We're going to connect you to your soul. We're going to have you understand that you are worthy. We're going to move in that direction. If that gives you like a oof in the pit of your stomach, that is probably a bit of anxiety speaking. And we want to help you get over that hump. And when I say we, I don't know who else I'm talking about. I'm talking about me, Heather, and Shannon, I guess. We're gonna help you through that. But if you have dealt with anxiousness for a long time, I know I, for a lot of years, dealt with really terrible anxiety. And again, people that know me probably wouldn't have known that, Heather being one of them. But I truly did. It had a big impact on my life. I had a lot of panic attacks for a long time. So if anxiety has been plaguing you, if it has become a part of your everyday life and has habitually become part of your being, I really hope that you get a lot out of this. And if you are ready to beat that anxiety down, if you are ready to take the bull by the horns and do something about it, and it starts with understanding, and it starts with you kind of being here, I am so excited to be able to share this with you. And finally, if it consumes your life, my friend, if anxiety is consuming your life, I want to support you in the best way I know how, which is being right here and breaking it down for you. So let's get along with it. We need to start with the definition, because before we can understand what anxiety is, we need to define it. And I'm talking a real definition. You know, I think all of us think we know what anxiety is, but I want to provide a couple of different definitions so that we can see really and truly what it is, and we're all on the same page. So, number one, the American Psychological Association says anxiety is an emotion, that's important, categorized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. People with anxiety disorders usually have recurring intrusive thoughts or concerns. They may avoid certain situations out of worry. So I'm emphasizing certain words. Number two, from Healthline, anxiety is your body's natural response to stress. It's a feeling of fear or apprehension about what is to come, not what is now, what is to come. And good old number three, Mayo Clinic says it's an intense and persistent worry and fear. So we have discussed within this group, my very first live, I think, an actual live topic was all about stress and the impact on the body. So if you've seen that one, if you're new here, you might not have caught that one, but it's a good one to watch. It's way back when. I'm just like a cute, quiet little Denise with my little voice, so nervous. Now I don't care. I'm like, yes, big parade, big personality, you know, because I'm just comfortable now, right? But we talked about stress and fear and the impact it has on the body. And as we can see, anxiety is kind of a symptom or a sign of that. It is our body's response to fear. It's our body's response to stress. And a lot of this information I'm providing you is going to sound very similar, but this is actually a good thing, because when we talk about, I have to deal with my anxiety and my fear and my stress, all of them are part and parcel. So if we look at it that way, instead of looking at it as three independent things, look at it all under the same umbrella, and then we're just dealing with one thing as opposed to a bunch of small things. It seems far less overwhelming. But anxiety, similar to stress and worry or fear, is going to put our body into fight, flight, or freeze mode. You know, it's going to throw it into survival. That is what anxiety is doing to the body, because it is, and as we saw in the definition, it is based around worry and fear, right? So if we have worry and fear in the body, it's going to spark that stress reaction, meaning cortisol and adrenaline is going to flood through the body. We're going to start having and going into survival mode, right? And as I said earlier, I used to be a person that struggled with a lot of anxiety. I remember my first panic attack, and I'll share that with you briefly. I was in the Linden Park Mall. I grew up in Brantford, Ontario, and I was in the Linden Park Mall, and my chest started, like my heart felt like it was like going to beat out of its chest. And I must have been 13 or 14 years old, very young. And I thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on. I started sweating. I started panicking. The more my heart started beating, the more I started hyperventilating. Like, it was the scariest experience probably to date, because I did not have an awareness. And of course, at 14, you have no idea. And if you ask me, Denise, what was the trigger in that moment, I couldn't tell you now. I'd really have to reflect on that to be able to kind of go back into the subconscious and dig it out. But I do remember being terrified, you know, and that is a really hard thought. I mean, some of you have kids out there. that are coming into teenage years, and imagine your child going through that at such a young age. So I think it's important too that we talk to our kids about anxiety as well and what it is, and giving them an education around it so that if something like this happens to them, they have the tools necessary to be able to manage it and to deal with it. But as I mentioned, it's common to have some anxiety, and I don't know what that anxiety attack was about. I'm sure I could tell you about a whole bunch of other ones, but a lot of them have triggers, and I'm more aware of what's going to trigger me and what isn't. But it is, in a nutshell, truly concern about the future. When we have depression, this is thinking about the past. When we have anxiety, we have concerns about the future and what's to come. And as we're going to learn through this live today, is spending time worrying about what is to come and spending our energetic currency on that as opposed to being rooted in the present moment can wreak havoc on our poor body. So I want to try and move us away from that as much as humanly possible. And again, for some people, they might say, oh, Denise, you make it sound so easy. And I understand that. I get that. Some people really suffer with chronic anxiety, and it's kind of beyond what we're talking about today. But for those that are having anxiety around making changes in their life, and they're really scared and worried about what's to come and the unknown, this is really the group I want to target. So this is going to... I debated on whether or not I wanted to put in the symptoms of anxiety into this live, but I think it's good to go over them because just in case you don't know, I'm assuming that everyone here knows what anxiety is, but maybe some people don't. So I want to make sure I give a well-rounded information. And keep in mind, some of these are going to be applicable to you. Some of them aren't. We are all different. We're all unique. So one might apply to you as opposed to others. So nervousness, restlessness, tenseness, increased heart rate, rapid breathing, sweaty palms, feeling weak or tired, needing to lay down for a nap, difficulty concentrating, trouble sleeping, a sense of impending danger and or doom. This is a big one. Difficulty controlling worry and an urge to avoid. So those are just some of the symptoms. Again, this is really going to be dependent on the person. Everyone's is going to show up in a bit of a different way. But to start off, after we got through all the definition and the symptoms and all that good stuff, I thought about that it might be neat to understand what's actually happening in the body systems, because our body is comprised of a lot of different systems. I believe if I go back to my school days, there might be 11 different systems in the body, and each of them is impacted by anxiety when we have this stress around worry or concern. So, and for me in particular, I find that if I have an understanding about what's going on in the background, it's a whole heck of a lot easier for me to process things and make changes because I'm aware, especially when it comes to the body. I like to have an awareness of what is going on within, and it's something often we ignore. And as I work with a lot of my clients, many of them have become out of tune and out of sync with the signals their body is telling them. So when we understand what's happening, we can pinpoint and have an awareness and say, oh, that's this happening within the body, and we can manage it better. So that's why I like to break this down. And so let's peel back the layers. That's like a weird analogy considering we're going inside the body. Anyways, I have a whole mental image. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to mention that one because it's just not necessary. But it doesn't really matter what the trigger is. Anxiety can be triggered by a whole heck of a lot of different things. And for each person, it's different. So I'm not even going to bother listing triggers because we all have them. And I could list off 100 and none of them would apply to you. So it doesn't really matter what the trigger is. And it doesn't matter if the stress or the worry is real, actually happening to you, or it is perceived, meaning you're thinking about it. And as we've talked about many times here in the community before, your brain cannot tell the difference between something that is actually happening in the present moment and something that is a thought or that is happening within the brain. So keep that in mind, because as we worry about the future isn't happening yet. Think about that. If anxiety is nervousness or concern of the future and the future isn't here, we are actually playing out a scenario in our mind that hasn't even come about yet. Our body is having the same reaction as if we were in that future moment as we speak. So just really, really keep that in the back of your mind as we go through all of this, right? So first things first, our body flips into survival mode. As I said earlier, cortisol, adrenaline, all of that starts pumping through the body. All of the stress hormones start happening. That puts us in survival mode or fight, flight, or freeze mode. So instantaneously, our body is being used to scan the environment, searching for the danger, because of course our body wants nothing more than to protect us from perceived or real dangers, right? So what happens is sometimes we recognize and catch ourselves in our anxiety, and we're like, okay, I'm just having anxiety. We name it, we label it, we can move on. This comes after a lot of work. So the body recovers quickly. It can go back to a place of homeostasis and balance. But what happens with people that have chronic anxiety is that they continue to have anxiety. They continue to have the stress hormones happening. They continue to live in survival mode, fight, flight, or freeze mode. This is persistent and it never goes away, meaning the body never achieves balance. And if we don't have balance and homeostasis within the body, we can't use our natural resources to heal ourselves from injury, from illness, from disease, from any of those things, because we're too busy trying to survive. So that's why some people that suffer from anxiety, I mean, as a person from the outside looking in, it's easy for me to say, okay, just get over it, just turn it off. But that's not necessarily the case, and it's not necessarily easy, because we also get addicted to the stress hormones. We get addicted to those feelings. We get, like, our body literally thrives in those stressful moments, and it's like we need a hit of it instantaneously. So it's really hard to just shut it off, which is why if you suffer from chronic anxiety, it's so important to work directly with a doctor. But if it's something that just comes and goes for you, we want to make sure it doesn't get habitual, right? So I want to talk about some other potential impacts, right? So we talked about the entire body as a whole, but let's think about the cardiovascular system. And consistent anxiety can result in high blood pressure or heart disease, and especially if these things run in your family, it's really good to be mindful of these things. Our digestive system, think about the feeling in your stomach or your gut when you're having, issues around your anxiety. You can have nausea, you can have diarrhea, it can exacerbate IBS if that's something, that irritable bowel syndrome, for those of you that don't know. It can really exacerbate this. Our immune system, because all of our resources are being used to survive, we cannot tend to, our body cannot tend to what it's trying to fight already. So if we catch a cold, and if you're somebody that gets persistent colds, you're always catching a cold, and you have high anxiety, there might be a correlation there, because your body can't address the cold itself because it's too busy living in survival. So it makes you more susceptible to illness or to infection. Our respiratory system, our ability to breathe, think again, in those panic moments, you get rapid, shallow breathing, right? We can't take those nourishing, deep breaths, right? So as you can see, and I mean, I've only just covered some of it, it has an impact on our nervous system. It's all encompassing. So because your body feels like it's living in survival mode constantly, it's living out of a state of emergency, and because of that, all of our other systems begin to suffer. So we want to try and move away from that. So let's talk about why do we even want to have a reduction in anxiety, aside from the obvious. But number one, to achieve that homeostasis and balance within the body, and to rid yourself of the anxiety program. And I put this in quotes, the anxiety program. You will break out of the habituality. Remember I said earlier, we become addicted to the stress and become addicted to those hormones and that are flooding the body, right? And another thing that actually happens with that is that we ingrain it into our own personality. So when we have anxiety, we start labeling ourselves. I am an anxious person. That's part of my personality. So when I say breaking free of the anxiety program, I want us, meaning you, to separate yourself from the anxiety. They're two separate entities. They are not one and the same. You are not your anxiety is not you. It is something that is happening to you, not something that is you. So when we can break free of that program and separate the two, it becomes much easier to manage. We have an overall decrease in hypervigilance. And if you don't know what hypervigilance is, you will know if you're hypervigilant if you scare easily. I'm still a person that scares easily. My partner, my fiance, will walk into a room and I'll be like, and he's like, dude, I live here. You know that, right? Like, this is also my house. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Sorry, but hypervigilance is a hyper awareness. You scare easily. You're always on the lookout. You're always fearing that there's something around every corner. Same, I think I might have told somebody the story of me checking my closet when I was a young kid in my old house, because it was a walk-in, and I could not walk into that room without checking that closet. Even if I tried, I could not do it. That was being hypervigilant. So if we can release ourselves from the chains of this anxiety, we have a decrease in that hypervigilance, and we can have a lot more relaxation. I need a sip of coffee. It's still coffee time for me. What are you guys having to drink today. Shannon's having tea for sure. I know she is. She's probably got a tea right now, and she's probably laughing as I say this. Okay, moving on. So if we can mitigate our anxiety, it leaves us open to engaging in experiences, being spontaneous. If someone says something to us, or if someone invites us somewhere, we might be more willing to say yes. Will we have a moment of anxiety? Yeah, probably, but we're more open to life. We're more open to experiences. We're more open to having a taste of what's out there, which is amazing. And it gives us an overall awareness of our triggers. And if we have an awareness of our triggers, we have an increased ability to manage the anxiety. So if we know what the trigger is, we can be aware around it, and we have an ability to manage anxiety when it presents itself. See, Shannon says she's having tea, I knew it. And she said the same thing, walk-in closet, always checking. Yes, hypervigilance for sure. And finally, the biggest freedom, as I said earlier, is the separation between you and the anxiety. And we're going to talk about how to do that. So let's just discuss. Let's have a little conversation about how to address your anxiety. And I want to start this with an interesting one. It's probably not something you expect, because when you're having anxious moments, I want you to stop first and foremost when you catch it, because we have to be an observer. Catch it and ask yourself, does this anxiety belong to me? Yes or no? And I know you're probably like, wait a minute, that's a weird question. Why would I ask myself if it belongs to me? I'm feeling it. So if I'm feeling it, it must belong to me. Not necessarily. If you are a highly sensitive person, or if you are a person that is empathetic or clairsentient, meaning you feel the emotions of others, it is entirely possible that the anxiety you're feeling does not belong to you at all. It belongs to someone else. Maybe it belongs to a child, your partner, someone in the grocery store, while you're standing in line in the bank. So be clear. Ask yourself right off the hop, is this mine? Yes or no? And if it is not yours, simply say, and I do this a lot, does this anxiety belong to me, yes or no? If this does not belong to me, I thank you so kindly for the message, and I send it back to the source with love and light, or whatever your verbiage is. That's actually a tip I learned from my Reiki teacher, and I've never forgotten it, and it really helps. You would be surprised at how much anxiety is not even yours, but you're feeling it in your body because you're sensitive. So that is number one. Before you do any of the below, ask yourself if it's yours. Number two, let's see if I can get through and count every single one, because sometimes I forget and stop counting halfway through. But harness the strength and the power of the anxious mind. And you're probably like, what? I thought we were getting rid of anxiety. We are, but we want to use the anxious mind to our advantage. So think about this just for a second. If our brain has the ability to live something out, even if we're thinking about it, right? So if we're worried about the future, which is what anxiety is, we put ourselves in a future state, we're living it out. If we have the power to do that with our own brain, imagine if we flipped that onto itself and used that same power to be in the present moment. Food for thought, right? Because our brain can't tell the difference. So if we can have that much power to think about the future, so much so that our body goes into survival, let's use that tenacity and flip it and try and be more in the present moment. And use that to our advantage, because there's a lot of intelligence there. So we want to flip it on its head and use it to be here in the moment, right? Harness the power of that anxious mind. Separate yourself from your anxiety. I talked about this earlier. And for those of you that are engaging in the group, I asked this really amazing question. If you had to give your anxiety a name, what would it be? And there were so many good answers. Oh my gosh. It's amazing to see the creativity the group came up with. But if we can give our anxiety a name, for my case, it's the lion. And going forward, I'm going to call anxiety the lion, or I'm going to try to, because I want to separate the lion from me. And anytime we talk about, because people love to say like, oh, my anxiety is here. My anxiety is causing me trouble. But if we say it like this, oh, the lion is here again. Oh, okay. The lion is here. He's using his big loud voice. He's present. It feels different. And you can feel that disconnection. And all of a sudden it separates you from the anxiety. And if that's the case, we're dealing with the lion. We're not dealing with you, because it's not a part of your personality. Remember, we want to label it as something else and call it that from now on in, forever. And I guess mine is the lion, because that's what came to my brain, right? Be present. As we talked about, the brain is powerful. Anchor yourself in this moment, in the here and now. Use your energy to be here, even if it's like talking and doing a quick body scan, like, okay, I can feel, for me right now, I can feel my feet in the carpet, rubbing my bare feet into the carpet. I can feel my ankles on the base of my chair. It's cool. I can feel my legs sitting on the seat. My arms are here. Actually label and point out everything that you feel against your body right now. And this is, I think, you can use your five senses too, is like one thing you see, one thing you smell, one thing you touch. Anything that you use to keep yourself rooted in the here and now is going to keep you present. And if you can be present, you can lessen that anxiety, because it's bringing the brain out of that future state and into the here and now. But be mindful, this takes practice. If you're someone that has suffered with anxiety for a long time, we got to start small. And that little activity I just did right now took 30 seconds. Feeling my feet in the carpet, feeling my legs on the seat, feeling my arms against the chair, or describe what the leather or the pleather in my case feels like, you know. Actually, I can feel my hairband on my head, you know. Label everything, because it brings you back into the present. But most of all, be patient and use these little tips and tricks in order to move forward. But be nice to yourself. If you find yourself in a state of panic or anxiety and you couldn't rely on your tools, my dog is barking. What a dude. That's okay. Just keep at it. Keep doing it. Keep going. And now I'm distracted because he's out there barking. Anyways. Number 3, 4, I don't know, I've lost count. Observe the story that's coming up, because whenever we have these feelings of anxiety, there's a story that accompanies it. There's a story that we're telling ourselves, and it's a story about the future. So what is that story? Is it a story of failure? Is it, oh my gosh, I have a test coming up, I'm going to fail that test, oh my God. And then your body starts thinking about it, and then you start having anxiety and stress and all that stuff. Or the lion makes its way into your reality, right? So name the story instead. Ever thought of that? Like, oh, there's that story again. The lion is here telling me his lies. He's here. He's present. Maybe it's a she. I don't know. I guess he's a he. Whatever works for you, right? Oh, that's interesting. The lion is here. He's telling me the story that I'm a failure, but there's no evidence of that. So I'm going to, again, root myself in the present, but label it and see it, but don't attach anything to it, right? Remember this is 4, I think. Remember your own resiliency. And we often forget that when we get into a state of worry or fear. We forget how resilient we are. We forget that we have spent a lifetime navigating difficult things. Remember, you can do hard things. You can do it. Time and again, you've proved it. So even if that worst case scenario happens, even if that fear of the future comes to fruition, you can get through it. You have the tools necessary. You can do hard things. And that is something you can tell yourself. I can do hard things. I can get through it. Even if that happens, I can get through it, right? Number 5, allow yourself to sit with it. So what you focus on typically becomes more powerful. So if we focus in on that failure, like if the lion comes in and he's telling us we're a failure, if we focus in, I'm going to be a failure, I'm going to be a failure, I'm going to be a failure, we exacerbate it, we'll give it more power. But if we sit with it and again say, okay, this is interesting, this story's coming up, feel that the anxiety is happening, but have some neutrality around it and know that it's just for this moment. But try not to, and I know this is easier said than done, to laser focus in on it, right? Number 5, treat every experience like it's the first time doing it. The lion or the anxiety comes in for me based on patterns. It bases itself on what is already registered in my brain. So if you, for example, this happens a lot in relationships. If you had a really, really horrible relationship, a terrible breakup, and you went through that, you probably have some anxiety around going into a new relationship. So you're probably bringing some of that concern with you. But if you can experience the next relationship through the lens of this is the first time I'm ever in a relationship, and if you look at it that way, it'll be easier to let go of some of those patterns, or at least have an awareness around it, right? And even with jobs or career, if you're starting a new job and your old job was like full of toxic people that treated you terribly, you're probably going to think that, hey, this next job has the same thing, but that's not necessarily the case. So treat this new job like a brand new slate, fresh slate. Try not to bring your patterns with you, and just if it comes up that it's the same toxicity, you can always say goodbye to it. You know you can manage it, find a new job, move on, right? But try not to treat every experience like it's the first time it's happening. Number 6, find comfort in the unknown. Because we know that anxiety has so much to do with the future and not knowing what is coming, find some comfort in what is to come. Because we cannot, and I know I've said this before, we cannot grow, we can't expand, we cannot, shift our lives or change our lives if we don't get uncomfortable, right? So that's why so many of us stay stuck in the moment, because we are unwilling to feel the discomfort of change. So we just stay right where we are. But a friend of mine was actually talking on her Instagram story the other day about this, because you're uncomfortable feeling like life is the way it is right now. That's uncomfortable. And changing is uncomfortable. Both of them are causing discomfort. One of them is more familiar than the other. Which discomfort do you want? Which discomfort do you want to go with? Because you can stay the same and feel it forever, or you can feel it temporarily, shift your life, change your life, be a happier, more kind, compassionate, loving person that stands in their worth and knows they deserve everything. But that, needs discomfort for now. It's temporary discomfort. So it's something that you have to weigh against each other, right? It's food for thought. And finally, I don't know what number this is. Who knows what freaking counting I've been using. Anyways, keep going. Take one step at a time. Do not give up. If one tactic or technique didn't work, try another one on for size. It's about experimentation. And always, as always, be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Celebrate your victories. If you nip your lion in the bud, if you get over it one day and you go out and you have an amazing day, pat yourself on the back, give yourself a hug, treat yourself to your favorite Starbucks or Tim Hortons drink, reward yourself, celebrate your small victories. I cannot say enough about that. Anyways, folks, it's been 31 minutes. It's probably time to sign off and log off, but I do want to say this. If you're struggling with anxiety, if you feel like I need some support with this, I need someone to help me through this, please reach out to me. My clients that I'm working with right now are making leaps and bounds in terms of addressing their fears, concerns, or worries. They are literally spreading their wings and flying, and that anxiety is mitigating. So if you are having issues around this, if you are seeking support with your anxiety, reach out to me. Let's have a chat. Let's jump on a call. Let's see what we can do. Thank you, Shannon. I think 7. Thank goodness for you. Anyways, let's jump on a call. Let's see if this program my program is a good fit for you, because truly, when you can separate yourself from your anxiety, the freedom that comes with it is absolutely magical. Anyways, my dear friends, thank you for joining me. It was absolutely lovely. As always, I will see you next week. I'm actually going to see you on Monday. I'm going to pop in here on Monday because I got a big announcement. Little announcement, medium announcement. I got a big announcement. So I'm going to pop in here on Monday, say hi to all of you. I will be here on Wednesday for Transformational Tidbits, and next Friday I will be here. I think we're going to talk about HSPs, or highly sensitive people. So hopefully you will join us. And with that, I hope you are all happy, healthy, and abundant. And because I didn't do a story this morning, I'll do a dance now. Make it a great day. Make it a great day. Make it a great day. I was using like Hawaiian inspiration for this one. I always look at myself when I do these crazy dances. Anyways, gang, I will see you later. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on the flip side. Bye.